Welcome back to another video. Welcome back to another term Tuesday with me. If you guys haven't seen my first video where I did some most common questions that you guys actually need to know in order to pass your real estate exam, then make sure you guys watch that video after this. But today we're going to be talking about joint tenancy and tenancy in common and the difference between the two. So it'll be a quick video, but I know that breaking it down the way I'm going to break it down for you is going to really help you understand and remember, so that when you go to take your test, it'll just be easy and you will be able to remember the difference between joint tenancy and tenancy in common. So before we get into that video, make sure that you guys like and subscribe to my channel. I am, studying to take my real estate exam here in Washington State, and I decided to start making these Term Tuesday videos so that it would help me retain the information. I feel like I'm a teacher. I love helping people, so being able to help you study and reiterate the things I need to know is going to help me retain it as well. So we're going to do this together. We're going to get our real estate license together. So if you guys enjoy content like this and you guys want to see some more terms and concepts, like, subscribe, and let me know down below. But let's get right into this video. Let's talk about the difference between joint tenancy and tenancy in common. All right, so joint tenancy, let's talk about this one first. You definitely will see it on the real estate exam. You've probably seen it in your studies. So what is joint tenancy? So we're going to be talking about shared interests, of property, of real property. So joint tenancy, the main thing you have to remember is there's the right to survivorship. And what that means is all parties have equal shares. And if somebody was to die, then that share would be divided among all of the people left. So if there was 3 people, they owned a property, they all each had equal shares. If someone died, then that share of this person would be divided between the two, and then they would have their property interest in their joint tenancy. One thing to remember is they don't have to be married, and it can actually be more than 2 people. But that is one thing to know, is that if they do die, because there is the right to survivorship, their interest would be divided among the people surviving, not their heirs. So they wouldn't be able to give it to their heirs. It would have to be divided between the people who were left. So with tenancy in common, what I like to remember is common interests. They're not joint, so they're not joined together. That's how I remember joint tenancy, they're joined together. All, rights of survivorship, if someone dies, all that stays joined together, that money, that interest, and it goes divided by them. Whereas tenancy in common, they're common, they have common interests. So tenancy in common means there can be 3 people, there is no rights of survivorship. So if someone did die, then they could give their interest to their heirs. And another thing to remember with tenancy in common is they have unequal shares. So there can be 3 people, whereas joint tenancy, it's 3 people, broken up in thirds, someone dies, it goes to the 2 left over. Whereas tenancy in common, so one person can have 40%, the other person can have 30, and whatever's left, that last person can have. So that is where it's tenancy in common. They have common interests, there's no rights or survivorship. If they die, their interest in that property can go to their heirs, and there's no right to survivorship. So just to reiterate what I said, because that was a whole lot, the difference between joint tenancy and tenancy in common is joint tenancy. There's right to survivorship. If somebody dies, they don't have to be married. It could be more than 2 people. But if anybody dies, whoever is left over would get that interest of the person who died divided up between whoever is left over. They can't give it to their heirs. It stays within that joint tenancy. Then we have tenancy in common. They have common interests. It can be more than 2 people or 3 people. It's uneven interest, so they don't all have to have the same amount of interest. And if somebody was to die, they could give their share of their interest to an heir. Lastly, there's tenancy by entirety. So tenancy by entirety, it's the same as joint tenancy, but it's used within married couples. So what that means, this does have a right to survivorship. So if someone, those 2 people who are married, if one person dies, all of their share goes to the person left over. And then if there was a will, it could be passed down to their heirs. But this is usually used in married couples. So I hope that this video helped you guys understand joint tenancy, tenancy in common, and tenancy by entirety. I know remembering joint tenancy, joined together, tenancy in common, common interest, but not even. That is how I remembered those 2. And then tenancy by entirety for the entire of the life, because you are promising your wife that you're going to be with her for entirety. That's how I remember tenancy by entirety, because it is for the survivorship of the marriage, or not the marriage, but until somebody dies, and then all of that share goes to them when that person dies. So I hope that this video helped. If it did, give it a big like, comment down below, and let me know some other terms that you guys want me to go over and kind of break it down where it's not just like a bunch of words from a textbook, but it's kind of putting it in easy terms for you to remember, so that when you go take your test, the first things that you are remembering are those key words, term words, so that you can pass your real estate exam. So if you like this video, make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.